Well, nutritional issues are extremely important in people with traumatic brain injury. Many people with traumatic brain injury have nutritional problems. In particular, commonly, early on after the injury, there can be a loss of nutrition or inadequate nutrition. Sometimes that happens because of what a term we use is dysphagia, or difficulty with swallowing. Patients are at risk for aspirating, meaning sometimes the food tends to go down the wrong pipe. It might go into the lungs, for example, instead of into the GI system, into the stomach. And so because of that, the professionals who take care of people with traumatic brain injury are very cautious to prevent that kind of problem, because that could lead to pneumonia. In preventing it, it means that we have to have an alternative method of providing nutrition. Oftentimes this is through a tube, sometimes a tube that goes directly into the nose, right into the stomach. Sometimes it's a tube that actually goes directly into the stomach, which is placed there by a relatively minor procedure. There's other ways to provide nutrition as well. Sometimes, in fact, we even use IV or intravenous forms of nutrition. But occasionally, the nutritional issues are not being addressed by the professionals or by the patients or families themselves. And so because of that, patients may be undernourished. On top of that, what sort of makes that even more dramatic is that the injury itself, responding to the injury, the act of recovering from the traumatic brain injury, actually requires a considerable amount of energy. And so if individuals have to have a source for that energy, if they're not getting enough external nutrition, they may actually have to use whatever energy stores or storage they may have. And so oftentimes, it's actually a fairly frequent occurrence where patients shortly after brain injury will lose weight, will have low protein levels, and basically will have inadequate nutrition. Now, interestingly enough, that oftentimes turns around over time. And although undernutrition can be a problem in the later stages of traumatic brain injury, a more common scenario that we see is that patients some time after brain injury actually develop what you might call overnutrition, or they're at risk for obesity, being overweight, and having lots of problems related to being overweight. And we think that some of that is because of lack of activity. For many people after traumatic brain injury, they may have inadequate activity levels. They tend to be more sedentary, tend not to move as much, some of which is because of the physical disability itself, and some of it is because of cognitive or emotional issues that happen after the brain injury. And so they tend to not be as active, not engage in exercise or other kinds of physical activities that they might have done before. So the nutritional issues are very common. And this is really important because, you know, as I said earlier, nutrition plays a very important role in maintaining and enhancing the energy level for people after an injury. And so much of what takes place following a brain injury involves the patient's activity, the patient's motivation, the patient's initiative, and really a good deal of that relies on the patient having the energy level, having the nutrition and the hydration to be able to tolerate and perform all of those activities.
Nutrition plays a huge role in the recovery of any illness, but specifically in brain injury. It's not uncommon for people to come up to me after they've been hospitalized and say, my family member lost 30 pounds, 40 pounds while they were in the hospital. We focus heavily on ensuring that people maintain their caloric intake, whether it's through their mouth or through tubes or IVs, because the body is burning a lot of energy and it's requiring extra energy, extra calories, extra protein in order to recover. People also, as they're going through therapy, may be doing more exercise than they have in a long time. So again, the body needs this extra energy in order to help heal the brain, help heal other injuries that occurred at the time of their having suffered the brain injury. But also it's important that they make good choices in the foods that they start to choose, especially as they transition from maybe enteral or tube feedings to oral feedings, because what we found is after the person has regained the weight that they lost while they were in the hospital, they unfortunately in some cases continue to gain weight, which makes it difficult for people who maybe have impaired mobility to move around with the extra weight. It's not healthy for their hearts, it's not healthy for their lungs. So it's very important that they maintain their weight, that they gain back the weight that they lost to help them recover, but also because this is a lifelong process, it's important that they maintain a healthy weight so that they make good food choices as they go through their recovery even outside of the hospital.